you doing? This coffee break with Jimmy. Yesterday I finished off by not knowing what the results were going to be, whether they're going to have a ceasefire or they're continue their military excursion there with Iran. And apparently they did have a ceasefire, and it was brokered by Pakistan. Some leader in Pakistan was talking to, I don't know who it was, but apparently some leader in Iran, and I guess it was somebody that was notable enough to where they can make this deal with Trump. And so they committed to a ceasefire, and the Straight of Hormuz was supposed to be left open so they can get the oil out of the Strait of Hormuz there. And there was 187 tankers ready to roll. But apparently, no one got the word on the ceasefire. So there were some people that actually didn't get that message. So they still fired on local countries there. Israel. They fired on Saudi Arabia and UAE, I believe. And but after about 2 hours, the fighting stopped. But then again, it started again this morning. Apparently, it wasn't part of the deal. Lebanon was not part of a ceasefire. Lebanon and the Hezbollah there, and it was not part of the deal to stop the ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah. And I guess they kept firing on Israel, so Israel fired back. So they're saying, well, that's the end of the treaty. We were supposed to have a ceasefire, and I guess and because of that, they ended that. And so I guess they were given another 48 hours to reinstall the ceasefire, or we're going to start taking apart Iran again. What they've said, and I on the USS Tripoli, the ship there that hauls Marines. I guess there's 100 or 1,000 Marines on the ship ready to go. And I believe they're going to have to put boots on the ground. I think that's what's going to have to happen, because they're going to have to get the people that aren't, because their systems, the U.S. military has blown up all their systems. They have no way to communicate with one another. They got no Air Force. They got no Navy. Everything is that they have left is on the ground. So we're going to have to put boots on the ground to take care of those people and to take care of the mullahs, because they still want to have their, they want to still be in charge of Iran, and that's not going to happen. So, and there was other things they wanted as part of the deal. They wanted us to pay reparations for all the damage done to Iran. Well, that's not going to happen. Look at all the damage that Iran's caused us. The Marine barracks in Beirut, that the Hezbollah that was made it happen by Iran. That's what they got the money to blow up the 400 Marines in that barracks in Beirut. Not to mention USS Cole and different people that have been blown up by bombs on the side of the road that this Soleimani set and his people, and Trump took him out in his last presidency. So Iran has done things to us for the last 47 years, and every president has kicked the can down the road. They don't possess a threat now. Well, they keep saying they're gonna spin the uranium until they get 90% of it spun to where that's weapons grade. I guess 3.5% spun on uranium. That's for nuclear power, for electricity. You get to 60%, between 60 and 90% spun on the uranium. That's weapons grade, and that's what Iran was after, because they want to kill the infidels and in the West. They want to come after the United States, the great Satan, and the small Satan, which is Israel. And this has been known for a long time. So we're going to have to wait and see what happens there, because I don't know if there's a ceasefire, if they reenacted ceasefire. It's still kind of new yet to all this. Where I don't know where they're going with this. But the way I understand it is another 48 hours, and then something's going to happen. So anyway, also on a couple of podcasts ago, a guy had mentioned about, I said, no one's left behind. And sometimes There are some, I should have mentioned that. There are some that are left behind. But our mantra in the military, in the Marines, Army, Navy, Air Force, they're all the same way. We don't leave anybody behind. Or we make every attempt to bring them home, whether they're alive or dead, but we make every attempt to do that. And then some, even like this pilot. We had a pilot, it's just kind of ironic, one goes down on Friday, which was Good Friday, okay? And they both get shot down on that day. One comes back on Good Friday, and the other one comes back on Easter Sunday. That's just kind of ironic how those days kind of worked out. But anyway, Trump stood awake the whole weekend, waiting to find out what was happening to the other pilot, and they did everything they could. Hundreds of men, different airplanes, helicopters, to do the extraction for him, and they finally got him. They found out where he was at. He had that beacon on him, and they located him. They found out, went and got him. The Air Force Pararescue went and got him, which I thought was pretty cool, and they brought him home. And that's the way it's supposed to be done, and that's the way we believe it's supposed to be done. And these 3 Marines, it breaks my heart because I can remember I was in boot camp. This happened in 1975, I believe it was 75 or 76. Now the story has gotten different since then. I don't know exactly what happened, but I do remember the story somewhat, where they were protected. We had ambassadors and their staff was coming back from South Vietnam, and they were extracting them. They were giving them helicopters, and there were some civilians that they were bringing back, some children, young children, South Vietnamese children and their families, and so they were extracting these people. So they had 3 Marines that were in a battery, for a machine gun battery that was protecting them. And the way I remember it, there was supposed to have been another chopper, or going to come back, or they were going to come back in the morning. These guys are going to protect themselves. They're in a machine gun nest. They've been able to take care of themselves, and apparently these guys were captured and assassinated the next day, before they had a chance. And apparently they were going to go back and get them, but before they had a chance to go get them and extract them, they were killed. And I believe they were the last 3 names on the Vietnam Memorial, the way I understand it. And they should have, if they didn't, they should have got all of them. Their families should have received a reward for the Medal of Honor for all 3 of them. But you're right. Sometimes, we're humans, and we try to do the right thing all the time, especially in our military. And the way PK Seth has been going, and Kane, and they've been doing such a good job. And the CIA, they led them the wrong, not the wrong way, but the other way. They're saying, we already got him. We're going to extract him now by sea or whatever they were going to do, but they didn't even have him yet. And they pretty much lied to him to give our rescue team, our special forces, to go in there and extract him. But that happened there, and they got him back, and that was a blown deal in Vietnam. I remember that. I remember it, and when he sent that comment on that, I remember that. So sometimes that happens, and it's unfortunate. But so we'll see what happens on that. But with the ceasefire. Now I did talk a little bit about the two Republican governor race. That's Steve Hilton and this Chad Bianco. They had a debate with one another. And they pretty much, I said it on my podcast yesterday, they pretty much agreed with each other on everything. But then I heard this morning, I believe, it was this morning, or it might have been last night, that Eric Swalwell was accused. Now he was accused, so he gets his right to it's just an accusation. Part of his staff, some girls that was part of his staff, said that he tried to molest them. I don't know if they actually did molest them or he tried to molest them and tried to get a couple of them cornered in their room or something. They were trying to say there was this girl talking, and she was part of the staff. She was part of Swalwell's staff. And everybody remembers what happened to Fang Fang, right? That Chinese or that Chinese spy that he was dating for a while. Never really hear much more about that. I think they covered that up because he's still a congressman. But he's he's got due process coming to him, and that's his right. And he was accused of this, and of course this kind of thing happens if somebody wants somebody out, they'll accuse them of something. But this may be the truth. I mean, you think about how Eric Swalwell is and the different things that he's been part of, and it doesn't surprise me a bit. So, but I guess there's like 10 or 12 women that are all coming out and saying this guy is not fit for governor of the state of California, and so we'll have to wait and see what happens on that. But anyway, that was what I wanted to talk about, and kind of clear up a little bit on that about those 3 Marines that were left behind. I remember the story, 1975. But so we'll see what happens on this ceasefire, and then the whole thing is back during that time when we had those 3 Marines that were left behind, we didn't have a president like President Trump. We had Gerald Ford. Okay, Gerald Ford wasn't much of a president. In fact, he was I guess he was a senator at one time. Spiro Agnew, I guess he was. They had something on him, on Spiro Agnew. He was vice president under Richard Nixon. Spiro Agnew, he resigned, and they brought in Gerald Ford to take his place. And then Richard Nixon resigned because of Watergate. And so then Gerald Ford became the president, and he's the one that we had to extract everybody out of Vietnam during his tenure. And that wasn't very good, that's for sure. And Carter wasn't long after that. I think Carter and Gerald Ford, they actually ran against one another in '76. It was either 75 or 76 when we had the extraction there in Vietnam. So, but we didn't have the president now that we have. President then that we have now. The president we have now has got balls. It doesn't have a problem with doing the right thing. He's got the right people in the right places doing the right stuff. And they're following his lead. And he includes them on everything. Everything. This John Ratcliffe, come on, he runs the CIA. He's the one that lied to the Iranians to say that we got our other pilot. And gave it a distraction, enough of a distraction to where we got our rescue, Air Force pararescue in there to get him out. So that was a good thing. But it takes a president, a leader like Donald Trump that's got balls. That's pretty much it. So we're gonna have to wait and see what Iran does. But you can't believe anything anybody in Iran. You can't. Not the people. I'm not speaking of the people in general. I'm talking about their leadership. You can't believe them. They lie all the time. They say they're going to do this. They're going to work out a deal with this, and they were supposed to let us investigators in to investigate their uranium to make sure they weren't weapons grade. They weren't doing any of that. So we took them apart. The hammer, when we took away their uranium, their processing plants, we took those out, and then we've taken the rest of Iran apart, and we've needed to do this for the last 47 years. So, and because we have a president with balls and isn't afraid to do the right thing, especially get our military men back, they get trapped back behind enemy lines. That was a great thing. That was so good. Anyhow, this is Coffee Break with Jimmy, and please subscribe and hit that notification bell and press the like button and share, and we'll see you next time on Coffee Break with Jimmy.